Welcome, welcome. All right, folks. I should be getting ready for work, but I messaged my boss. I'm like, you know what? Give me an extra half hour. Something very, very important has occurred. And so please do me a favor, hit that like button. I need to make this video worth it. Wow. In the world of Pete Alonso and Scott Boras, could this Pete Alonso saga be coming to an end very soon? Because today's news, I'll say it hit me out of left field because I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. So let's just get into that right away. So it came out today, right on my news feed. Woke up a short time ago. Work late last night, so woke up a bit late. So the SI article that came up, and this is how it's titled: Pete Alonso's camp reportedly made this contract offer to the New York Mets. And folks, this is actually what we've all been waiting for. Whether you like Pete, whether you don't like Pete, what we wanted was clarity from the Boras Alonso side. There was Prince Fielder talk of contract comparison. You know what? I am so pressed for time right now. I'm gonna leave that in the video. But there was talk of a Prince Fielder contract comp. Does he want 9 years? Does he want 2 years? Does he want 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? But this latest report gives us a little clarity. So let's get into this. All right. So the New York Mets and free agent first baseman Pete Alonso apparently, you know, have been working toward some type of negotiation, negotiation. According to indications right now, the New York Mets and longtime slugger Pete Alonso are currently in the most crucial stage. Obviously, spring training is right around the corner. Ever since the new year, sentiment within baseball community has been that Alonso hasn't already re-signed with the Mets because New York isn't offering him the right amount of years. That was the thing. Money wasn't an object. The Mets were willing, whatever it is, $25, $30 million, 3-year deal, that's fine. But what was believed was Alonso wanted a 9-year deal. Alonso wanted a 7-year deal. Heyman said the other day Alonso wanted a 6-year deal. So again, from the top, clarity was all over the place with regards to Alonso. So, the Athletic Baseball insider Ken Rosenthal asserted this by saying years seems to be the problem regarding the Mets negotiation with Alonso during his January 2nd appearance on foul territory. All right, fast forward on January 8th, John Heyman, as mentioned before, said that he is looking for that 6-year deal. However, I mean, it is just honestly, do the insiders know what's going on? Is Scott Boras and Pete Alonso currently moving the bar? All right. So, however, a report from Mets GM and current MLB analyst Jim Duquette revealed that Alonso's camp has changed their contract desires. Okay, so that answers my question right off the bat. Alonso and his camp recently changed their contract desires. According to league sources, Pete Alonso's camp has offered the Mets a 3-year deal with opt-outs. This deal is only available to the Mets right now. No deal known to be close at the moment, and Alonso's agent Scott Boras declined for comment. Duquette wrote in a January 10th post. Okay. I mean, let's unpack this right now. Is Jim Duquette, does he have that much of a direct line to Scott Boras and Pete Alonso? I mean, that's my question. Or does Jim Duquette have a direct line to Pete Alonso? Possibly. I mean, it's just shocking that Jim Duquette supposedly had the inside scoop, not Jeff Passan, not Andy Martino, not not John Heyman, who had that inside connection. That's the number one shocking thing, that Jim Duquette has the most accurate information. Momentarily, we're going to hear Andy's response on this. So Andy might have been a little teed off that he didn't have that inside negotiation or inside word. But this is very interesting, folks. This is very interesting, to say the least. First of all, this is the same exact offer that was supposedly turned down by the polar bear at or around Christmas. At December 25th, December 26th, rumor was the Mets offered Pete Alonso that same exact 3-year deal of 3-year deal with opt out, 3-year, 90 million deal with opt out. So, I'm wondering why this is coming out now and why all of a sudden that Pete is tripping, running to say, Mets, here, you have an exclusive offer. I'll tell you what's come to the back of my head. I will tell you what's come to the back of my head. In the last couple of days, there have been ridiculous things coming out from the Boras side. Ridiculous things. The Prince Fielder comp, ridiculous. Even the 6-year John Heyman request was ridiculous if you think about it. A 6-year deal when the last deal you were offered was 3 years. So you basically want double the deal that's on the table. Meanwhile, you have no deals on the table, apparently, right? So even a 6-year deal is insanely difficult. This is my read on the situation. My read on the situation was Scott Boras and Pete Alonso made these kind of last minute pushes, and they were right to do so. But here in the last day or so, I think Scott Boras and Pete Alonso got wind that the Mets was seriously. Now, this has not come out yet. This is unconfirmed. This is me speculating. But you have to speculate why this has come out. My speculation is that Pete Alonso and Scott Boras got indication that the Mets were seriously willing to pivot elsewhere. Why would such a contradictory report come out, right? Number one, obviously we have to question the first thing. Is it true? Right? Is it true? But Jim Duquette is, an SNY guy. He's a guy very closely associated with the Mets and Pete Alonso. Why would he just be BSing this? I don't know. I don't think he's a guy all of a sudden, in his 60s looking for attention, former GM. I don't think so. I think that it's credible. I'm a little kind of bewildered and shocked that Jim Duquette had this report. But, okay, so that's my, that's how I try to do. That's just me. I try to question why this has come about. Now, from the Pete Alonso side, I think Pete Alonso has always tried to play it very close to the vest, but it seems at the end of the day that, he does want to come back to the Mets. I mean, I was the type of person, I'm like, all right, if he doesn't want to come back here, we got to move on. But at the end of the day, it looks like the polar bear does want to come back to Queens. Or he has come to the realization that there is no other team on the market that wants him. But at the end of the day, you look at what's best for you, what's best for your club, and it looks like there could be a mutual, agreement here because Pete Alonso can get that high AAV deal, a good salary for the next couple of years. Plus, he gets those opt-out clauses. So the Mets could have, even if Pete Alonso hits mid-30s, bats around 240, has an 800 OPS, I mean, that is not something I expect a Ryan Clifford to do right off the bat. He's still probably 2 years away. And who would be your right now better option? The one guy I could think of is obviously of Vladdy Guerrero Jr., but another guy, and this would be going in a completely different direction. This would be going more pure hitter direction. Was there really a lot of smoke around the Yandy Diaz trade from the Rays? He's a guy who literally won the batting crown in 2023. I think he batted like 320 something. Last year, he had a little bit of a down year. He wouldn't give you that pop, but he is more along the line of a David Stearns type, hitter. Or, in the same vein, you heard the Mets were looking for Luis Ariz, possibly at first base. So with those rumors true, and then, if you got Ariz or if you got Yandy Diaz, and then the next move was Santander, obviously that would leave the polar bear out on the street. Was that the emphasis for this latest report? Maybe, because I'm of the one. I don't think this comes out of nowhere. I don't think all of a sudden Pete Alonso, two or 3 days after they desire to have Prince Fielder like contract, all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I'll go from 9 years to 6 years to 3 years. All right, so let's continue with the article. Okay, so then Jim Duquette then on to say he then added in a subsequent post, of course, the financial portion of the deal is unknown at this point, but this would be good for both sides, similar to how Cody Bellinger's contract with the Cubs was finalized in late February of 2024. There's no need to wait for Pete that long. And this is what I said yesterday. I said, Pete's not a guy who I believe wants to wait this out during spring training. Pete is a guy who wants to know where he is going to play and wants to go to spring training. Pete loves baseball. And I think Pete's a guy who needs the spring training, especially going into his 30s and potentially having to play for another contract year. You can't mess around. Jordan Montgomery, a lot of players who don't get ready or don't go through their normal routine have an off year or don't get started in the manner in which they want to. So I don't even think Pete wants to worry about that, especially if he's going to have these opt-outs. But here's the deal. Again, to go back to what's kind of confusing to me right now, and maybe now the Mets just have to, if they were reconsidering a different route, or if, they put a temporary, or if they put a deal, who knows if that deal was even true around Christmas, that 3-year, $90 million deal with the opt-out. Number one, was it true? Number two, was it a deal that the Mets said, hey, this deal's only on the table currently, temporarily? Is that one of the situations? Because like right now, the Mets are the ones mulling it over. All right, let's see what we're going to do. And now here's what makes it more curious, because Andy Martino, Mr. Andy Martino, he commented on this report. So, and this is kind of funny in itself. New York Mets and free agent first baseman Pete Alonso reportedly remain far apart in contract negotiations. According to SNY's Andy Martino, the two sides are not close to striking a deal to keep Alonso part of the MLB organization. Martino's report came on the heels of former Mets general manager and current MLB Network analyst Jim Duquette reporting on talks between Alonso and the Mets. So I mean, I see. This is where I'm not sure. Was the Andy Martino thing about the Mets not being close, was that before the Jim Duquette report, or was that after the Jim Duquette report? Because even if it came out after, I'm not sure if Andy Martino said this before. So that's up for debate. But so I'm waiting to see kind of what happens tonight. With the latest report is tonight, what Andy Martino says, and if things all of a sudden kickstart do the negotiations between the Mets all of a sudden get to that next level. Okay, we got Pete Alonso. We have the framework for a deal. And that's what we were looking for. Again, the word clarity. Before you can work on a deal, you need a framework for a deal. If Pete's at 9 years or Pete's at 6 years and the Mets are at strong at 3 years, you're not even close to having the same framework. So at the end of the day, okay, even if the Mets right now, if they're close or not close, they didn't have a framework. The Mets have clarity. They have clarity. They got it all of a sudden. They got it, but it doesn't matter. They have it nonetheless. And they had that first base position open the entire year. So you can't tell me that Pete Alonso wasn't a highly considered option, because they didn't look to fill it the entire year. Again, my theory, my speculation is that the reason why things could have possibly changed in the Boras Alonso camp is because they got word that the Mets may have been pivoting or strongly pivoting elsewhere. Okay, but that's besides the point right now. We have to go where we are. Where we are is the New York Mets have received clarity from Alonso and Scott Boras. So the ball is in their court. I think right now it's and I'm thinking, if the Mets do decide to pivot elsewhere, knowing that Pete Alonso wants to come back and knowing that he wants to come back at a 3 years deal, the Mets, I believe, would get crushed. There'll be a certain a contingent of Met fans that will say, I am done with the polar bear. I'm done with him. Let's move on. But knowing that Alonso wants to come back, because there were Alonso fans that said, all right, if he doesn't want to come back, or if he wants a 9-year deal, a 6-year deal, we can't do it. We can't do a long-term deal. But here's worst case scenario. If you give him that 3-year deal with opt-outs after year 1, year 2, year 3, I guess you'd be afraid that all of a sudden he gets old. So let's just say year 1 does horrible, doesn't opt out. Okay, so now we're looking at a 2-year deal at a player that is less than. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden drop off the face of the earth, but let's just say he's not that 40 home run guy. Maybe he'll be a 25, 30 home run guy. I think he'll always have that potential for 30 home run power, especially in his low 30s. So you have him for a 2-year deal, and you have him for a 2-year deal at DH. Then you can go out. You can go out for, a Vladdy Guerrero Jr. You can go out. You can be a little creative. Kyle Tucker, I believe he's more of an outfielder, but who the hell knows these days? Then you have the Japanese sensation. He's a first baseman who's going to be available next year as well. So you have options. You don't have to keep Pete Alonso at first base for the entire 3 years. But we're not talking about a lot of money. And we may be talking a lot of short-term money, but long-term, we're not talking about a lot of risk. We are certainly not talking about a lot of risk. So at the end of the day, I have to surmise that a deal will get done. A deal will get done unless the Mets have already worked out a deal elsewhere, and that is in the works, and they made commitments on other fronts. See, that's the other complicating part. We just don't know why this deal happened not this deal, but these requests by Alonso and Boras happened so quickly. This is not how Boras operates, folks. This is not how Boras operates. Another scenario that went through my head is Pete Alonso's family got Pete in a room and said, you know what, Pete? Forget about what Scott's saying. It's up to you. Where do you want to play? What are you willing to play for? And then he goes to Scott saying, you know what, Scott, I know you're saying I can hold out for that 6-year, 7, 8-year contract, but you know what? Me and my family, we want clarity. We want to go back to the Mets, and then we'll test the market next year. So we're going to call it a day. I mean, that may be a likely scenario as well, and that may be the scenario most Mets fans have in their mind. I think more cynical. I think more on the business side, but it is what it is. You want to cover all aspects. So, all right, I got to go. I have to go to work. I'm sorry I rushed this video. Normally, I would, try to edit this stuff out, but I had to rush this. I apologize, but if you could drop a like, comment, and let me know what you think. I thought this was a very important video to get out there for you. So that's my quick, initial views. And honestly, I don't know what is out there. I don't know the comments. My comments may be out of left field, but that's just my quick take on seeing that article right from waking up. And thank you for everybody who's watched the videos. I saw a whole slew of you. I appreciate it. I'm going to thank everyone in the future, so stay tuned. But again, thank you for all watching the videos, the likes, the comments. You're helping us grow, and I immensely appreciate it. Have a great day, folks.